Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going over how to beat your opponent to the opening without learning theory. And the main idea behind this is the copycat playstyle, strategy, whatever you want to call it. But the main thing you have to know about the strategy is when to break symmetry and also what you cannot play symmetrically against. Now, this is a good strategy, but it's a little bit looked down upon as a bit dubious, because you're essentially just copying your opponent as black. But it's not a bad strategy if you do it the right way, and it's actually a quite good strategy. For example, if you've been following my tournament recaps, you'll know that my opponent, Perry, plays the Collie system. And in my most recent game against him, I played in this copycat style, and I beat him. In the end, especially since I got him low on time and I had a tactic. But up until then, I basically played copycat. But I'm just going to show you a couple examples of copycat and also like when you should break symmetry. Just a couple examples of that and what cannot play copycat against. Castles, knight b2, just still copying. You can kind of just copy this entire way, but after white plays f3, now you have to know that you have to break symmetry here, because if you try and keep symmetry with f6, then black has knight takes d7, and if you take on d2, then take, but there's also just bishop takes h7, which is a killer because you can't take back, because then this comes with a check and then you take back. So you kind of have to look out for some tactics, but also when stuff like this happens where it gets super tactical, like if you play f6, everything gets really tactical here. And first of all, you have to know what's going on, so you have to be good at calculation to kind of figure these things out. Or you can take things a simple way and be like, okay, we're out of the opening. I mean, there's no way your opponent knows like 10 moves of theory at this point if you're playing like pure copycat, and then you can just take. Like, out of the top evaluations here, 2 of them are good for black, and 1 of them is straight up just zeros, like complete draw. And that you can equalize very easily using the strategy. Of course, you kind of have to know how to play symmetrical positions, so it's going to be a small learning curve for that, but it is definitely achievable. So after queen takes e2, now you can play f6. Maybe you can try and reclaim symmetry, but yeah, here you have to break symmetry. Don't make things too tactical if you don't think you are actually winning the tactics. There are situations where you can win tactics in symmetrical positions, but yeah, oftentimes white will actually be the one winning the tactics, since they are technically a tempo ahead of you. So that does it for the first example, coming from my game, or this isn't directly from my game, but it's an example stemming from one of my tournament games over the board. And on to the second example, we're going to be following the London system, since this is actually an opening that the copycat strategy is pretty decent against, because you just can play the London against the London, and this is like a true opening that people will play against the London. e3, e6, and I think Gotham Chess calls this Londoning the London, which is, yeah, that's essentially what you're doing. You're literally playing London system against the London system. So yeah, you literally just copycat and follow exact same setup. It's objectively all right, and you're not really taking any risk. Yeah, you're just developing castles. Well, actually, this is where you have to break symmetry. If you understand the London, basically, you want to attack this bishop and take it on g3 after the castle. Because, for example, if in this position you played knight to h5 and here, and then try to take the bishop, now they're not going to castle because they're looking at your h7 pawn. Of course, you're not castled either. You don't have to castle kingside, but it opens an avenue of attack that isn't optimal. Of course, this is still better for black since you have the bishop pair, but it is typical for this to be good attacking chances for white. But anyways, back to where we're at. Here, castling's fine. Like, castling, absolutely fine, still equal. But instead of keeping it symmetrical here, you can get the initiative with playing knight to h5, trying to claim the London bishop, and in fact, you're actually claiming it by force. There is no safe square for the bishop that you can't trade it. And yeah, you get the bishop pair, which is good. You take away the London bishop, which is also good. And you just simply have a better position. Of course, black can kind of do the same thing. White can kind of do the same thing, because bishop g3, knight takes g3, h takes g3, and let's say castles, knight h4. Bishop takes h4. Your knight isn't there anymore. You can't do the same thing as white. So breaking symmetry at the right time is definitely the main theme of the strategy. So you just have to keep in mind as you're copying your opponent, how can I yield an advantage here? Because it is symmetrical. Symmetrical positions are often considered a draw. But yeah, you always have to be in the back of your mind, because you can kind of just go brain dead and just, copy everything they do and not really think, which can be good. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because sometimes your opponents are just going to make mistakes because they don't know how to punish you, which oftentimes it's very hard to punish Copycat. By the way, if you want to watch like actual Copycat strategy, Grandmaster Mon Hambleton did a speedrun on the Copycat strategy on the Chess Brawl Extra channel. If you want to watch hours of that, it's hilarious. He copies until he can't no more. Even like if it loses him a queen, it's quite funny. I recommend it if you want to see it being played out. Yeah, it's really funny. Anyways, just know when to break symmetry, and that can yield an advantage. And on to the last example. Sorry, spoiler alert there. But there's some openings that you simply cannot copycat because there's theory behind it. And one of the biggest openings that has that is the Vienna. Now, this is the Vienna. The reason it's Vienna is because they played at knight c3. The most popular is knight to f3, which stems into a lot of very theoretical openings, such as like the Roy Lopez, the Italian, and many others. But knight to c3 is just the Vienna. Now you can copycat here. This is fine. This is fine. But this is theory, so you kind of have to know what you're doing here if you want to try and do the copycat here, which you actually can't. And the reason you can't is because Gotham Chess has a course on this, and you're gonna get crushed if you don't know everything about what you're doing here. So you can't just plainly copy. I marked this with inaccuracy because you're really going to the theory here. I used to play the Vienna and Queen G4. My statistics are so good in this line against black, because I used to play it like back when I was 1200. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to lose every time they play this position, because you have to play a really awkward move like Queen to 6, and it gets really tactical here, and most likely they're going to know what they're doing because Gotham Chess has videos on this. He has courses on this. And you're just going to get crushed tactically because they have already analyzed it beforehand, and you have to figure it out on the fly without making a single mistake, which is already a pretty big task. But in this position, rather than keeping symmetry, you kind of have to play principal chess, play knight f6. Just trying to avoid theory at this point. They're going to play f4 probably. You can already do knight takes e4 though with the pawn center trick. So like this kind of thing, just play normal chess against like actual openings that have this this is theory. This is the bishop's opening. So you can kind of cheat this on chess.com by looking at the top right, and sometimes it'll say like symmetrical variation or whenever that name like changes in the top right, near like above the moves, you're like, oh shoot, this is theory. They're playing really fast. Maybe I should switch up my strategy a little bit. But yeah. Anyways, I hope this quick little explanation of the copycat strategy helped you out. Try it out if you want. I mean, it's a good way to like try and play against an opening that you don't really know. Try and test your opponent on punishing like the copycat, because it's a hard strategy to punish. Like, it's really hard to punish unless your opponent knows what they're doing. But yeah, give it a try. If you don't like it, don't play it. But if you are tilted or you want to have some fun, give it a try. It is kind of a fun strategy because you don't really have to like really pay attention that closely. If you're not really playing that seriously, you can just you can copy just instantly without really thinking. But yeah, it's a good way to try and test your opponents on their openings, try and test them on punishment, and yeah, you can actually get some nice wins with the copycat strategy. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as you may think. But yeah, hope it helped. Hope this video helped. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in tomorrow's video.